Right, yeah. Hey everybody, my name is Blake and I'm one of the pastors here at the Refinery Christian Church, and we are excited that you are joining us for Refinery Online. This is Kenny, he's our men's and missions pastor, and he's going to give you a few announcements before we get started for the day.
So again, we're so glad you're here, and we want to help you take some next steps to grow in your faith and get connected here at the Refinery. One of the ways you can do that is by joining a Rooted group. Rooted is an awesome 10-week discipleship experience that we ask everyone who calls the Refinery home to participate in. The next session starts on September 1st. If you've already participated in Rooted or you're looking for something a little bit different, we'd love for you to join a life group. Life groups are just about to start back up again, and this is a great time to jump right in. For more information about that or about Rooted and life groups, please visit the refinerycc.com/groups.
That's right. Hey, man, and we got some amazing things coming up for our students and our kids as well. Right. Next Sunday is Promotion Sunday, the 16th, August 16th. What we are going to be doing is bringing all the 5th graders to middle school. Matt told me about this last week. It's a really cool deal. And we're moving all of our middle schoolers to our high schoolers that are graduating. It's the greatest time ever.
Yes.
But then that means we have to kick out our high school seniors, but they're in college and they're freshmen and they don't care they don't matter anymore. So, hey, make sure you tune in with your students for Refinery Students Online at 4 p.m. Sunday afternoons. Immediately following that, we're going to jump into huddle groups that they can meet their coach and have a really good time of breakout sessions.
Huddle groups are awesome, man. That's what it's all about.
Small groups together. That's what Jesus did with his disciples. It's an amazing deal. But here's another cool thing. Guess what we're doing? We're having an open house. Open house, just like school, where they come and you get to meet your coach. You get to meet your student's coach who will be discipling and hanging with your student all year long. We hope that you are there.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what I really want to do though?
What?
Play some golf.
Yeah.
Golf.
So, finally, guys, the men's golf trip is coming up September 9th through 11th. And it's just the deadline is August 16th to register. We've already got about 40 guys registered. So, next Sunday is the deadline. So we'd love for you to get back in there. It's a great time of playing some golf, encouraging each other. We've got Kevin Ingram coming out from Manhattan Christian College. He's going to lead some powerful and awesome devotions.
Love me some Kevin Ingram.
Yep. So
he's solid.
God bless you guys. Are we ready to hear from
Dave
Cowan?
The
man?
The man.
He's preaching?
The myth.
Get out
the legend. David Cowan. He's coming to you right now.
Right now.
There are things we all struggle with in life. We may battle emotions of all kinds. We take on the criticism of others, or even from ourselves. In unexpected ways, moments in life often bring grief to the surface, and never at the best time. And many of us sit in loneliness, thinking we are left to battle all of this alone. Our feelings in all of these battles might not be right, but they are real. How do we keep on the path God wants for us when some of these things come at us? The struggle is real.
Well, hey guys, David Cowan here, and for some of you, probably most of you, I'm a new face to Refinery Christian Church. Well, if you missed the announcement from Chad a couple of weeks ago, I'm the new executive pastor of programming and communication. So anything having to do with the weekend experience, including this online experience or the upcoming Refinery Anywhere, when it comes to the AV part, all that stuff has to do with the stuff I'm going to be pouring myself into. And hopefully you've enjoyed a lot of the changes that you've seen recently with our Refinery online experience. But anyway, I'm so excited to be here, and I got to tell you, my family, we're just so grateful for the way that you guys have just blessed us and just encouraged us and welcomed us. It's so great to be a part of the Refinery. Now, before serving here, just to let you know a little bit more about us, my wife and I were high school sweethearts, so we've been together a long, long time, and then we started ministry young. We started planting churches. We served from New Orleans to Baltimore. For a better part of our 20s and 30s, we planted 3 churches. But then after that, we got involved in the creative arts. And for about the last 11, 12 years, we've served in the creative arts from Las Vegas to Philadelphia before making our way here to Goodyear, Arizona. And though I'm not a worship leader, you may find me on the drums from time to time. I've been playing drums since I was 9. Absolutely love playing the drums. But when it comes to our services here, just real quick, I just want to let you know that together between Shay, myself, and any of the worship pastors we may bring in from month to month, we're going to work super hard to make sure that our services are biblical, that they're practical and creative each and every week. We want to make sure that we have an online experience or a live experience or a Refinery Anywhere experience, which is coming soon, that is something that you're going to want to invite your friends and family to if they're not already involved. So be expecting more and more of that soon. But hey, let me just say this, if you're into photography, if you like programming lights, or if you love to sing or play an instrument, if you love editing video or making motion graphics, I want to talk to you because there's so many opportunities ahead where we can just pour into the creative arts. And if that's you, I want to talk to you. Yes, even during COVID, let's talk. Can't wait to meet each and every one of you. But with that said, wow, that was quite a promo for creative arts. There you go. Well, let's get started, shall we? Our message series, we're continuing this, is called The Struggle is Real. And first things first, before we really get started, I just want to congratulate each and every one of you that are watching today, because guess what? You made it to August of 2020. That's basically like saying you made it to the 8th level of Jumanji. And you may be like me, wondering what is next. I mean, what in the world is this year going to throw at us again? The struggle is real. It's literally like our message title. Somehow I feel like the life experiences that we're all experiencing together right now are literally writing, there are pages being written in our U.S. history books right now. And many of those pages are still being written today. I mean, the year's not over. We've got all kinds of things yet to come in 2020. And then on top of like everything, so many of us are really going stir crazy when it comes to COVID-19 and the quarantine. I mean, let's be real. By now, you've probably done the thing that you said that you would always do, but you never got around to. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You actually cleaned your house. You actually cleaned your garage or cleaned your closets. And not only that, you've now watched every show on Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus. I mean, you've literally done everything you can think to do. And it's even gotten to the point where even you introverts, you are ready to hang out with people again. You're ready to meet in groups. And why is that? Well, if we can just be real for a moment, it's just hard right now to be still. It's hard to separate ourselves from others and to go through this stuff. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented in many ways. Well, I remember when I was a kid, it felt like my whole life was about being still. And I don't know if you found it hard to be still as a kid, but I literally just felt like that was basically what I was told to do constantly, like be still when you're in public, be still when you're at the restaurant, be still at the movies, and be still while the adults are talking. That was always my favorite. But the one that always got me was being still in church. Now, I don't know if you grew up in church, but I did. And my mom had a particular look when I wasn't still in church. Moms, you know that look. Dads, you fear that look. And kids everywhere that grew up in church, you know that look all too well. But as I've gotten older, I began to notice that there are just these moments in life where stillness just happens because something captured our attention, either from a natural disaster that was beyond our control, or maybe something that someone did to us that was beyond our control. And I remember once, I was in college, so I was visiting my grandmother in the Midwest somewhere, and I was there with my girlfriend at the time, Kimmy, who's now my wife. We were just dating at the time. And I was there visiting my grandmother, and I remember that the local news station had said that a tornado had struck down nearby. Now, if you're familiar with storms like this, you know, like I do, that you just never know where the damage is going to occur. It could level a house, or it could completely miss you. It's just one of those things. And let's just be honest, that's one of the reasons why we live here in the desert and we don't live in the Midwest, right? Like, we don't have tornadoes here in Arizona. We don't have blizzards either, that's for sure. But I remember that day that my grandmother, because we were all a little nervous about everything, she said, "Isn't it great to know that God is still on his throne?" And without hesitation, Kimmy said, "And he ain't nervous." Well said. But here's the truth. God may not be nervous, but we definitely can be. And here's another truth. Not all disasters are natural. Some come in other ways that, if we think about it, they take our breath away. There are moments where time stands still. I remember as a kid just watching TV and seeing the Space Shuttle Challenger breaking up in the sky. Nearly every classroom in America was watching live because there was a teacher on board named Krista McCullough. And thousands around the world just sat still and watched, stunned, looking at those TV screens. And then, of course, years later, it was September 11th, millions of people around the world stood in shock as planes flew into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania. I remember that year, our family, we were planting a church in Baltimore at the time, and we had a friend who lived in Baltimore but actually was working in New York that day and was on the 70th floor of the World Trade Center when the plane hit the 77th floor. Miraculously, he survived, but as we know, there were so many that did not. I think of October 1st, 2017. We lived in Las Vegas at the time, and just down the street from where we lived, 15-minute drive, there was a gunman who had opened fire on a crowd of people that were just there to watch an outdoor concert. And many of our friends were directly impacted from the events of that night. And I believe that Las Vegas was forever changed. And then I think about, most recently, how our nation has been shaken with the death of George Floyd. If you think about it, cell phones, they captured his last moments in vivid detail for the world to see, and we are still dealing with that as a nation. There are no words for disasters like these. They literally take our breath away. And like in any disaster, we begin to look for anything that we can put our hope in for deliverance or rescue, because what we're looking for is a refuge. And thankfully, there is a refuge. But listen, our refuge is not a place. It's not an object or something that we can possess. Our refuge is living. Our refuge is a person, and his name is Jesus. You see, a physical refuge can't keep a promise and keep it like Jesus does. Listen to his promises. I love these passages. Matthew chapter 11, 28 through 29 says this: "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Or this one out of Isaiah 40, verses 29 through 31, where Isaiah says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those whose hope is in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." And you know, I love, there's this awesome passage in Exodus chapter 14, where it shows us that all the former slaves of Egypt are on one side, along with Moses, their leader. And on the other side of the Red Sea, they're faced with all the chariots of Egypt on the other side. And I love this promise that God gives through Moses. And this is what he said. He said, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." I love that line The enemy you see today, you will never see again. Think about it. Do you have enemies that you would like to never see again? Please don't name names. Don't do that. But are you ready to let your past be your past? Are you ready to trust God with your battle? This passage, it tells us that the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. You know, I just know this in my heart that some of you are facing a faceless enemy. You're up against forces that seem to have your back against the wall. You may be close to actually losing hope, and that's honestly why you're still watching this video. Well, listen, God is a living refuge that backs up his promises. You know, and all this makes me think of another passage. I love Psalm 46 because it's where we get the famous verse, verse 10, where it says, "Be still and know that I am God." And you think about it, there's that phrase again, be still. In other words, God's saying, I've got this. I back up my promises. And I guess that's why I love all of Psalm 46, not just verse 10, because basically it was written from a perspective very similar from ours today. Because if you think about it, back in this passage, events at this time were a mess. There were earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes. Nations were in uproar with violence and political upheaval, and there was an absolute economical crisis. But guess what? That's not today's news. That was Psalm 46. That's the reality that they were living in. But that sounds awfully familiar to us, right? Let's listen to what it says here. He says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. This psalm reminds us to be still in spite of our circumstances that we experience in life. You see, this psalm was written in a time when the people of Israel were living in uncertain times. They were physically under attack, most likely under siege from the kingdom from the north, which would be kingdom of Assyria. And during this trying time, the psalmist tells us that natural disasters are no match for God. Listen again to what he says in Psalm 46 verses 2 and 3. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. He's telling us that natural disasters, though powerful, are not cause for alarm when your refuge is God. You know, over the past couple of years, I've been blessed to know some followers of Christ and see their lives after the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey in Houston and Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. And they will tell you, as they told me, that God is their refuge. You see, the name of Jesus is stronger than the name of Harvey or Maria or Katrina. In fact, no hurricane is stronger than Jesus. Nothing is stronger. But the psalmist takes it even further by saying that the same is true of terror and war. He makes war cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. You see, God is the one who has the final say with war. They will cease. God has the final word when it comes to terror or mass chaos. All of these things will bow to the Prince of Peace. And then after all of this, after talking about tsunamis and earthquakes and all of these things and talking about terror and war and all this stuff that's going on, it's after all that and in that context that the psalmist says these words, which is really the theme of today's message. Verse 10, be still and know that I am God. You know, you may feel like you're in a battle all on your own, and you may be seeking shelter in something. But listen, not all shelters are made equal. Some people, they run to drink, some to relationships, some to drugs, Some even to positive things like job fulfillment or just staying healthy. But here's the thing, no greater refuge can be found except Jesus. And I really believe that what God's doing with 2020, this crazy year that we're in, is to reinforce this, that there's nothing that we can trust in that will save us except Him. Honestly, nothing. Our refuge is Him. And I love that. I love this verse. I love what Jesus says in John 10, verses 27 through 30. Jesus says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one." Listen, do you know what that means? I mean, if you really think about it, that means that nothing, that means not one thing, not injustice, not natural disasters like a hurricane or tornado, not an earthquake or a flood, not even the bullet of a madman can snatch you out of God's hand. So think about it. Who's stronger than God? Who's smarter than God? Of course, we know the answer, no one. Jesus is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So what does that mean? Well, that means He's got us. He's got you. He's got me. And I think that's one of the most remarkable things about all these verses that I've been sharing today. And that's that God is God alone, and He's going to protect and look after those who believe in Him and trust His name. But here's the thing. We may understand that to be true with our heads, but we may doubt it in our hearts. We may know intellectually up here that God's in control, but somehow in the distance, the 18 inches between our head and our hearts, somewhere in there, doubt creeps in. Happens to all of us. So how in the world can we be still? How is this even possible? Well, I got to tell you, it's one of those things that we have to learn to do. It's one of those things that doesn't just happen. You don't just, instantly, okay, I'm being still. This is something that we have to learn and something we have to practice. So I'd like to give us 3 things just to leave with us today in closing that I think are things that can help us in learning to be still. And each of them are hard. Just bear with that. But the first one is this: trust Jesus with your situation. Believe it or not, your current situation will someday change. And honestly, who better to trust with your situation than the God of the universe? I'll let you in on a little secret. He knows best how to handle your situation. I promise. You can trust Him with your daily life. You can do it. The second thing is this: trust Jesus with the outcome. Maybe you're like me and you start thinking about all the different situations, all the different things that could happen, and you start playing the what if game. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Listen, leave all that in His hands, because who better to handle the outcome than the one who knows how it will end to begin with? You can trust Him with the results. And then finally, trust Jesus with your life. Now, this may be the starting point, really. This last point is probably the starting point for many of you. I don't know if you've ever asked Jesus into your heart, but I can tell you there's no better person to trust, because remember, our refuge is not a place, it's a person. And you can do that by just simply having a conversation with God in prayer and just giving Him your heart, your mind, your life. And in fact, today, as you're watching online, if you want to do that, you can actually click the prayer button, and someone will be there to help you walk through those next steps in trusting Jesus with your life. You can trust Jesus with your life. There's no one better. Just remember, our refuge, it's not a place, it's a person. Not long ago, I was on a trip to Europe, and I found myself at the home of C.S. Lewis in Oxford, England. Now, if you don't recognize his name, you may recognize his books like Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters, and the Chronicles of Narnia, to name a few. I got there about 2 hours early before the tour, but there was a sign that encouraged visitors to walk around the pond at the backside of the property. And I had to make the decision, do I go left or do I go right around the pond? And I decided I would start my way left and work my way around that way. Along the path, I discovered something C.S. Lewis had built himself. It was a bomb shelter. And as you know, England was bombed mercilessly during World War II by Nazi Germany. And it was a bit sobering to see a shelter that he had built with his own hands. Yet as I continued my way around the pond, I found another structure he had built. This was a shelter of another kind, because here was a bench that he had made to spend his time with God. Here he undoubtedly took refuge with Jesus as he prayed for his wife Joy as she fought against cancer. Listen, it's in the stillness that the battle is won. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still.
Father of kindness, you have poured out grace. You brought me out of darkness. You filled me with peace. And giver of mercy, you're my help in time of need. Lord, I can't help but sing. Faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. We sing this together. A beautiful Savior, you have brought me near. You pulled me from the ashes. You have broken every curse. And blessed Redeemer, you have set this captive free. Lord, I can't help but sing. Forever faithful. Faithful you are. Faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. Faithful you are. Faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. And all your promises are yes and amen. I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness, and I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness, and I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. Yes, I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. Faithful you are. Faithful forever you will be. God, we thank you for how you meet us right where we are. As we worship and sing songs of praise to you, God, we are so thankful that the God of the universe, who is in control and in charge and strong and mighty, is also intimately aware of what's going on in each and every one of our lives. And God, I pray that in this moment, each of us, no matter where we find ourselves, what circumstances we're in the midst of, God, that we would rest in the fact that you are a faithful God who goes before us in all things, who fights for us even in ways that we can't see. God, we love you, we trust you, and we say thank you. We love you. It's in the powerful name of Christ we all pray. Amen. Refinery, each and every week, as we've done over the last several weeks, we've paused to celebrate communion together. And again, we find ourselves in a unique time, and I don't know where you're watching this, but my hope is that each and every one of us, as we spend time giving worship and praise to God, would pause and continue to give him praise through communion. And that's the opportunity we have to grab whatever elements you can find. And I know it might look different from week to week, whatever you have in the fridge. If you find yourself by yourself or with friends or with family, grabbing a couple elements that help you signify and remember the importance of what Christ did for you and for me. A cup of juice, perhaps, to represent the blood of Christ. And whether it's a cracker or piece of bread that you have at home that reminds us of the body that was sacrificed for you and for me. And so it's in this time as we kind of pause and settle our hearts, not knowing what this past week held or what's looking ahead to the week in front of us, that each and every one of us might pause and remember what Christ did for us, remembering that he came to bring us life and to have it abundantly. And so again, in this time, why don't you lead yourself, your friends, your family in a moment of prayer, remembering what Christ did for each and every one of us. This is your time.
Hey everybody, we want to thank you again so much for joining us for Refinery Online today. We're just so glad that you took the time to experience what God is doing here week after week. I want to invite you to visit the announcements page on our website at therefinerycc.com/announcements to find out some of the other opportunities that'll help you get connected in a deeper way. So while you're there, we'd also love for you to fill out a virtual connection card so we can get to know you a little bit better and just find out more about how we could serve you and your family better. So you can also submit a prayer request. We'd love to pray for you and with you in whatever it is that you're going through. And you can continue your worship through giving as well, right there on the same page. So again, God bless you guys so much. Thanks again for coming. Have a great week. And don't forget to tell someone about Jesus.